This is going to be a long video giving you an update on all of the various wins. There's so many. I don't know how long it's going to be. But let's get started. I'll start with the most recent one. Donald Trump had attempted to gut federal unions. He did that last time, by the way. His first term, he attempted to, say no federal unions. And a judge back then said, you can't do that. And so again, a judge said, it's against the law. You cannot not have unions. Second, Donald Trump revoked student visas from students who already got visas. Can't do that. He had to reverse them because there are standards for when you revoke visas. Once they're enrolled in school, they do what they need to do. They're not involved in any violent felonies. They maintain their visas. You can only revoke it on certain standards. So they started revoking visas on all these international students. No basis. If you don't know, they instituted this policy called AI and Deport. So they used AI to find international students or students on visas who had participated in pro-Palestine, and they try to couch it as Gaza and couch it as against foreign policy. But to protest in favor of Palestine is a political protest, is protected by the First Amendment. Everyone, whether you are a visa, student visa, visitor visa, tourist visa, permanent resident, green card, whatever it is, up and down, you're entitled to free speech. The First Amendment protects you. That's enshrined in our Constitution and jurisprudence, which means case law supports that from the Supreme Court on down. So if you see anyone say that you come to our country, you have to know that's not the law. They didn't pass civics class. They don't know what they're talking about. Everyone's entitled to First Amendment. And I'm going to do another video about further into those student cases. So if you're not following me, my name is JJ Legal. I help people on the internet understand the case laws. I'm following up to by now 200 lawsuits against the Trump administration. So I'm in there since from the beginning. So I know what's going on. I know why they lose. I'm confident that they're going to continue to lose. They lost last time, Trump 1.0. They can continue to lose. So follow this account, share it, tell your friends. I got you. So yeah, student visas, they were returned. Next. So good news for the people currently in the El Salvadoran torture prison known as SECOT. They got sent there pursuant to Donald Trump's unlawful executive order of March 14th, when under the cover, quickly in the dark, they hustled a bunch of Venezuelans. 172 are not criminals. As the 60 Minutes has reported, 75% never committed crime. As I said before, you follow me, immigration is a civil matter. To be here in the United States unlawfully is a civil infraction. It's not a criminal activity. When you are discovered to have been here unlawfully, you're given a paper and told to leave. No one comes and arrests you. No one puts you in jail unless you commit a crime. So 75% of those people who never committed a crime were not entitled to be sent to a prison. So the attorneys for the migrants in front of Judge Boasberg in the D.C. District Court has asked him to certify a class, once again, protecting all of those people and ordering all of those people returned. Every single person at SECOT, he said, create a class for them. The Supreme Court said they're entitled to due process. They need to come here for the due process. They cannot do the due process in prison in El Salvador. The Supreme Court said they're entitled to due process. Bring them back here so they can do their due process, according to the judge. So that's great news. I hope they get that. Well, we'll see. I'll be keeping an update, but that's great news. Next, the judge during Trump's first term who had the case when he tried to punish sanctuary cities. For those who don't know, sanctuary city or state is a city or state or jurisdiction that actually protects people here undocumented who come here for asylum, who come here from fleeing persecution, who are refugees, who may not have status. So they may give them driver's license, they may give them food stamps to afford them, so housing just to protect them. And they also protect them from ICE when the federal government tries to take them and summarily deprive them of due process and ship them off. Those cities, which usually are blue liberal cities, protect them. On Donald Trump's first term, he tried to defund them, take away funding from those states and county. The same judge from last time said, dude, I told you can't do this last time. You come back again, and I just fortunately have to be assigned your case again. You still can't do it because it's going to harm the communities. They've already got the funding. They've already allocated resources. And there's this thing called, federalism, where the federal government cannot force the county and the state and local government to follow their bidding. It's in the Constitution. Ultra virus, beyond your scope of your authority and the power. You can't do this. So, no. Stop. Next. Trump tried to change the Federal Election Commission. This is a big one. He issued an executive order and said, in order to vote, you need to show your passport, show your ID. No. You know who manages that? Congress can determine laws related to voting, like they're trying to do with the SAVE Act. And then the local states and governments do that. There's a thing called federalism again. You can't do that. And also balance of power. Your authority as the president does not include changing Federal Election Commission laws. So the judge looking over that was like, no, you can't. You don't have the authority to do that. No, stop. Lawless. The man does not care about the Constitution, and that's why he keeps getting overruled. So when you see MAGA out there saying, like, these judges are activists, they don't even know what the freak activists mean, first of all. Ask them, say, define activists. They're not going to be able to tell you. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. They're repeating bot terms or something they hear in their echo chamber. To follow the law, if Donald Trump was a civilian, he would see a purse inside of a car, break the purse, take the purse out, so I want this purse, and he will see a dog that's barking and shoot the dog and kill the dog because he wants to barking. And when the judge says you can't do that, he'll say, well, what? You can't shoot the dog. If you want this process, if you want that purse, you work, you get a job, you find out the purse is, you go online, you can have the purse without taking someone else's purse. If you want the dog to stop barking, you can file a civil complaint or something like that, noise ordinance or something, to the town, to whatever, and tell the owners to work on that. But you can't shoot the dog. So that's what essentially Donald Trump, he's doing whatever he wants and not following the law. And then when the judge said you can't shoot the dog, you can't steal the purse, they're like, rogue, and then Mike Johnson talking about we're gonna stop the judges and all this stuff like that. Everyone who's saying that, I can't wait till we have the Truth and Reconciliation Committee, because they're gonna look like egg on their faces, because none of them are immune, even though Supreme Court, shame on you, gave Donald Trump criminal immunity in terms of official acts. The rest of y'all, all the stuff you're doing, history's not gonna look good on you, Mike Johnson, Pam Bondi. I can't wait till we have your hearing when they saying all the crazy stuff you're doing and you're just sitting there. I don't know if she would beg, or I don't know, but I asked, you guys plan on going in the grave when Donald Trump eventually kicks the bucket, because he's 78 years old, and y'all are pretty young, and y'all act like as if his reign is going to be forever, no matter what he told you, cultists. There's another side of this. We're waiting. Next. Donald Trump, the first term, said that if schools don't do what he wants to do, he's going to defund.
We'll have one person, could be you if you decide to retire.
Okay, Mr. President, here's what bothers me about that. So let's say you have a liberal city, let's Los Angeles, San Diego, and they just decide we're going to get rid of that history. We got new history. This is America built off the backs of slaves on stolen land. And that curriculum comes in.
Then we don't send them money. We would save half of our budget.
Okay.
Diversity, equity, inclusion, what are you talking about? It's so vague. And then another judge was like, even if you were going to do this, there's process to do this. There's standards, books, paperwork. You need studies, you need experts. If you're going to do a policy shift, it has to be based on something. So you have 3 judges almost the same day, because there was a deadline for the states to say they're going to tear up the DEI, and all the blue states were like, F you. So because that deadline came, the 3 judges had to issue, and 3 different judges said, no, you can't do it, for 3 different bases. That's why he loses, because he's just... He tried to dismantle Voice of America and some other radio stations that have been getting funding, and the judge said you can't do that because Congress enacted and created this. Only Congress can dismantle the Voice of America and Voice of Radio. You as a president can't do that. If you follow my account, I tell you repeatedly that there's like 4 or 5 different laws that Trump violates. Administrative Procedure Act, the ultra virus, which means beyond the scope, and separation of powers. So he does stuff that's that Congress can do, he can't do. Or he'll try to do stuff that executives normally can do, but there's process to get that done, and he doesn't do the process. They're lazy. They don't do anything. They're not trying to govern. They just want to bully people with their stupid executive orders that are meaningless, as you can see, because they keep getting overruled. They're meaningless. They have no teeth to them whatsoever. So I need people, when he does these things, just to be like, another order that's about to be overruled. So another immigrant, Venezuelan, was sent to El Salvador, and he was not, and had an order saying he should not not just Gilmar Abrego Garcia. There is I think 19 or 20-year-old student who was Venezuelan, amongst with a bunch of kids who came during the Trump administration, was part of unaccompanied minor. In 2019, in 2024, there was a settlement that said that these kids should not be returned. And so there's an order saying do not deport them, do not remove them from the United States. So there was two. One of them was detained still, so he got saved. Thank God for lawyers. The other one, he's already there. So their judge says, you had an order saying you shouldn't return him, bring him back. Now the kid now had cocaine possession. I'm not quite sure if that's a misdemeanor or a felony. Whatever it is, it doesn't even matter, because the order supersedes the deportation. So that misdemeanor, they got to deal with that in criminal law. There's processes and procedures for figuring what to do with that. But what you do that is you don't send him to there and say he's a gang member. His parents are like, he's not a gang member. He just might dabble in some drugs, but he's not a gang member. And they're just using any excuse. And sidebar, what happened was I read that Donald Trump, because, as I said before, and I said this actually in a video a long time ago, when he was beginning his term, because he fired his ICE director early on, and the numbers and the media was reporting that he's way behind deportations compared to Obama and Biden the same time their presidencies. And the reason why is because Obama and Biden had already done a really great job of removing people who do not belong in the country. And as I've said before in a previous video, and I put it here, the last year of Biden's term, border crossings were going down month after month after month. Donald Trump lied when he says there's all these, it was a lie, millions and millions, billions, they're emptying their saints. All of that was just bullshit and lies. And so now that he's time to put up a shut up, and there's none. So they're going to schools. They're having little children go before immigration judges. They're arresting kids. They're some women were sent to SECOT. They're just doing whatever and not following the law, and they're hoping that you don't care. They underestimate to the extent that actually Americans do have compassion for their fellow human beings. He sees them. He called these people vermin, which is very Nazi-like on the campaign trail. So he does not even value them as human beings. And so he's just like, how are you all caring about these folks? Because we actually have compassion and empathy, and we're not like lawless goons like you and your unfit, unqualified yes men. And that's the problem too. Last term, he had people who were more principled, though they were in Donald Trump's cabinet, so you had to question their judgment, but they still had principles and they knew the law, and they were so when he's asked to do these crazy stuff, they were like, you can't do that, that's illegal. Now he just has a bunch of unqualified people who are just happy to have the job, as you can see from Pete Hegseth's signal. Kash Patel had to be removed from a job because he didn't even show up, and he's asking for he's Pam Bondi and her crazy eyes, and then Carolyn Levitt, they're all unqualified, just goofy yes people. And that's why they just do whatever he says instead of telling him, no, you can't do that, it's unlawful, we can't do these. So every single thing they're doing is against the law, but he doesn't have anyone to tell him, no, you can't do that. So he decides, and he doesn't have anyone who knows better to say don't do that. Or even they do know better, they're scared of him. They're just happy and lucky to have the job because they know they wouldn't normally be in this position at all, but for the fact that they were they're loyalists. Okay, the same judge Judge Aslip, who had ordered the probationary workers to be returned, he's back again. The Supreme Court stopped him on a procedural ground, said, hey, you know what? Rather than these unions coming here, it should be the actual individuals. So he said, okay, great, cool, we can do that. So he reopened the case. He's told the unions, bring me people who have been fired, and bring me their examples, the fact that they had great reviews. Because they had great reviews and they were fired, clearly they weren't supposed to be fired. So he set up a whole new standard. I'm gonna put it here, a whole new set of standards for the new renewal of the cases. So if you're probationary employees, something's working and brewing to keep your job. So yeah, that's a good news. Now I'm going to talk about some cases that are from the last update I did, but I didn't go into deeper because I was just trying to run through them fast. Trans in the military. The judge in that case said, listen, the people who you're trying to remove have been serving for 4 or 5 years under the General Austin policy, because General Austin, which is Biden's defense secretary, was serve whatever, and you're trying to remove them and you have no basis. General Mattis, which is Trump's defense attorney under his first term, had a policy that was not too trans friendly, but when General Mattis set that up, comparable to when General Austin had his policy. They had done the legwork in terms of present the data, the stats, the facts, the history, the experts to back up their policy. The Trump administration, Pete Hegseth, DUI hire, Hegseth didn't do any of that. They just said ban them, and the judge was like, you can't do that. You have to have some basis. You could, like Joe Masters did, but you got to put something on the record. Without anything on the record, these people, leave them alone. And then he did it nationwide because he was like, we can't just do it on a piece-by-piece basis. Because, Mike Johnson and these Republicans and these, are talking about stopping nationwide. It's not going to pass, by the way, but that's a story for another day. Stopping judges from issuing nationwide injunctions. This judge was like, I got to do a nationwide injunction because a lot of different states actually filed in this, and then it's one of those things like it has to be nationwide. It can't be piece by piece. So trans and military back, and then if you don't already know, they had tried to move some trans prisoners to female presenting trans prisoners to male. That's been a disaster. Cruel and unusual punishment, 8th Amendment. So that was blocked if you don't know. Then you have Risha Öztürk. Risha Öztürk, I'm not pronouncing her name right, but she is a Turkish grad student who was detained and I'm going to do a future video on those students and the student visas and the students. But anyway, she was detained and then sent to Louisiana. But I said before, if you follow my account, the reason why when they detain people, they send them to Texas, Louisiana detention centers, because they're hoping if they have to go to court, they'll go to a conservative, friendly court versus Massachusetts, New York, California, D.C., where most of these the people who they're going to take, they're taking are living. And the judge returned her, and she, just like the student visas that I mentioned, they're going to reverse course on that. Stay tuned. I have a video coming on them in the future. What's next? The judge said that you cannot dismantle those Consumer Federal Protection Bureau. There was a preliminary injunction saying do not dismantle them. The Trump administration said, okay, we won't dismantle them. We'll just like limit it and do all. They try to do all this extra stuff, like try to reduction in force and still dismantle them, even though the judge said you can't dismantle because that's something Congress authorized it. Only Congress can remove that agency. So it's balance of power thing. It's ultra virus. It exceeds your authority. It's this is an Administrative Procedure Act. So let's say you were going to do that, dismantle it. You have to have process, a thorough record. You didn't build the record. You have no authority to do it. And if to the extent you did have authority, you didn't build the record. So stop doing that. And then stop doing backdoor efforts, because even the reduction in force efforts was improper. Stop. They're not. So yeah, I'll keep you updated on that. I already mentioned the student updates. Yeah, Biden had Trump, just like, okay, the Supreme Court has ruled against the Trump administration on substance ground at least 3 times. One of the times is when the Trump administration did not want to pay outstanding invoices owed to USAID. And the Supreme Court, on a vote of, I think it's 5-4, said you have to pay those invoices. So similarly, the Donald Trump administration had stopped payment of invoices under some environmental protection thing under Biden. So the people had already gotten the grants, they already did the work, and they need to get paid. And so the Trump administration said no, and they paused it, and they lost. And the court was like, no, you have to pay them. And the Trump administration got Citibank to stop the funding, so to freeze the people's funding because they already paid the money. And so the environmental groups sued Citibank to unfreeze it, and the judge told Citibank, which is Judge Tanya Chutkan, unfreeze the funding, which they started to, and then the Trump administration appealed, and so it's on appeal. It got paused on appeal, but this let you know that they're going to lose if it goes up to Supreme Court. Just the same reason why Supreme Court told them they have to pay the USAID is the same reason they would have to pay the invoices under this Joe Biden era grant funding that was already allocated and was owed, and the work was already done. Same thing. So that's the update. The next thing you're going to hear from me is I'm going to go through, I created a guide for when you come in encounter with ICE, if you're in the red state, if you're in a mixed status household, if you are, let me see, you traveling, if you are approached by ICE, all those things. So I have about 12 guides. So I'm going to walk through the guides, and then you can have them. So you don't even have to screenshot it. I'm only charging $1 for it. And the only reason why, because I need to have a way of figuring out who's having my stuff. So that's one way I can track you. Well, because I need to know who is or has access to information I have, so I can track, because this is one of those times and eras and space that you really need to be mindful of who you're connected to, who you're sharing resources with. So that dollar helps me do that. And it's great because it's a lot. It's 12 really action-packed, including cards that you can give to fellow protesters or your employers or neighbors or other people. And you see, and it's action-packed. It'll help you. It'll save your liberty. So $1 is like a little bit of money. I also take some documents that I created for my family legal documents, and I'm made them available. I'm charging a nominal fee for that too, so that's also available too. So if you're interested in that. And what's coming down the pike? My next video is going to be after reviewing those documents. I'm going to go through them. I am going to put a face behind the various different people that have been disappeared, because we know Kilmar Abrego Garcia, but there's several others, and humanizing and seeing their stories I think is important, so we can kind of get a grip with the human interest behind what's being done by this rogue administration. So I'm going to do that. And then I'm also going to talk about Pete Buttigieg going to right-wing radio and the criticism behind that. I think that's a good idea. I'm going to talk about why that's good and why I think Kamala should have done that actually, and why things could have changed had she done it. So look for that video as well, coming soon. I am also going to do a video on what else? Hold on. On the students. So there's so much complexity there, but I have a good feeling ultimately in the end, the student visas, the students who've been abducted, they're going to get justice. They're going to win. So I want to talk specifically about a case law that a University of Maryland law professor discovered that applies, that I'm hoping we can talk about that. What else? Anyways, yeah, so that's your update with all of the cases. If you're not following me, follow me, share this video, share my account, let other people know. I don't know who else is doing this. A few people are sharing, the wins are sharing, so they're good, positive folks who are sharing the upbeat news on TikTok and on Threads and on Instagram and Substack. So follow all those accounts. Be mindful of following dooms people. I know a lot of people say that they like following my account because I share the good news, where a lot of folks are just sharing like doom and gloom, and also they're sharing news and just the headlines and just a cursory, and they're not going deeper beyond just the headline, and there's another headline, there's another headline, there's another headline. That's why it's overwhelming, and you don't get a resolution. You don't know what's the outcome of one executive order. So I'm here to tell you a lot of them fail and will fail, and they're all going to. And I can tell you with unequivocally that the Trump administration have had zero substantive loss. They have had minor procedural wins, meaning like a judge would say it's not the right type, it's not the right case, the right plaintiff isn't before us, it's not the right court, it's too ripe, it's too soon, it's not soon enough, it's it should be in this jurisdiction and that jurisdiction. So that's how they've won, only by procedural. In terms of a judge saying this is right, this is you have the authority to do this, they haven't had none. It hasn't gotten there yet because they keep losing on the preliminary grounds, and when they win on the preliminary ground, it just slows down the inevitable. So example, the probationary workers example, where a judge, the Supreme Court, for example, said that the unions weren't the proper plaintiffs. It should be the actual union members. And so that case continues. So I saw a few websites say it's like categorize it as a win for Trump, but it's a temporary win for Trump because the case is back. And ultimately, they may be forced to hire all those probationary workers back anyway at the end of the day, or do a RIF, reduction in force, properly, which they haven't done yet. So, and they don't want to do that. So to the extent they have to do that, that's a loss for them. So they haven't won on a substantive at all. They've lost substantively when the Supreme Court told them to pay the invoices for the outstanding USAID. They lost when the Supreme Court said 9-0, you have to give every person who you are subjecting to Alien Enemies Act due process. They lost when the Supreme Court told them to return Abrego Garcia back. So that's 3 substantive losses. But in saying, no, this is wrong. No, you have to do this. You have to pay the money. You have to return them. You have to give due process. That's a substantive loss. But the wins have just been like, you can continue doing this while the case percolates to the bottom. So ultimately, they may lose. I don't know if you guys get that. So the difference between substance and substance. Anyway, so follow my cases. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to put a playlist here in the end screen. If you're watching this on TikTok, I have playlists down. If you're watching this on any other platform, maybe Threads or Instagram. I don't think I have the ability to do playlists, but if you want to watch playlists and see back videos, they're on TikTok and they're on Threads. And at some point soon, I gotta add that to my to-do list. I'm gonna do a walkthrough for my playlist, and I might, I'm not sure, I might break down my playlist a little bit more and make the playlist a little bit more easily, put them in more smaller categories. I'm not quite sure. Right now, they're just like big playlists, but that's a great place where you can go and look at the stuff that I've done already.